to come here and contribute to our community, we're willing to give you a hand out and help you and get the registration for you and provide a good, safe environment on some of our great 400 miles of snowmobile trails in Chautauqua County.
Beautiful. And of course, one of the things that angered the snowmobile crowd is the fact that it wasn't too long ago they passed a law that they had to be registered in New York State, so they got to go through all that nonsense.
Right.
And like you don't have to register your car when you come into New York State from Pennsylvania, but you got to register your snowmobile, which creates another blockade to the growth of our tourism. I can't believe why they did that.
Well, they did that because that registration provides funding for the maintenance of the trails that we have in this county, because number one, we wouldn't have trails if it wasn't for property owners. We wouldn't have...
I gave one of my pieces of property up for the snowmobile trail.
The insurance is not an issue anymore, but we have a great bunch of volunteers, and they maintain these trails. And you usually don't see them because they're out at night working very hard. They're out all summer trimming brush.
Yeah, that's...
So folks, don't think that that's a penalty, because without that trail funding that we get from the registration, we could not have the economic impact on this area.
So that's the other side.
That's the other side of it.
Kind of like the tax. They're taxing all the overnight places and the B&Ps.
The bed tax.
The bed tax. Yeah.
And of course, that was a very controversial issue in my district. We got it passed. I didn't support it, but it's there. We work through it now, and we have the 3%. And we have the 2%.
Yeah. Well, we have. In Chautauqua County, as you were well aware, we have a big problem with bringing business in. The one thing we have is the beauty of our properties here. There's the woods and the hills and all the lakes and Lake Chautauqua Lake. And so the one opportunity is tourism. We can grow tourism. But when you create licensing and bed taxes and such as that, you basically are penalizing your tourists, which is not very, I don't think is very smart.
Well,
between you and me.
You have a point there, but I will say this, two things. One of them, I know that there's still people, I do attend Town of Chautauqua board meetings, and I'm always amazed at the amount of building permits that are issued, $1 million a month in the Chautauqua area, which is great. So people are still coming here to build. As far as business, government cannot make business, but example, yesterday, one of the constituents in this viewing area was a small entrepreneur. And I don't know how many legislators actually do this, but I took this gentleman to the IDA office in Jamestown to see what kind of a loan that he could get from the IDA.
And what's the IDA again?
Industrial Development Agency.
Okay.
And it's an arm of Chautauqua County. It's not county run, but it's an arm of Chautauqua County.
Where's the money come from?
Different grants, loans, and part of it comes from banks. So what they do is they work in conjunction with the bank, they work in conjunction with the IDA, and they work on his own money. And I walk through with this individual on how to go through the application. So these are some of the things that I do, and I challenge other legislators to do. Don't sit back and complain if you have a business. For example, the last business we helped do this was Max Market in Sherman. We helped them walk through the process. So, you have to get out, you have to work, you have to find these entrepreneurs, because one thing that people are worried about is jobs. And I can sympathize with that. But yet it does my heart good to see these entrepreneurs want to move ahead and expand their businesses and create some jobs. By the same token, how many second homeowners do we have in this county? I think we have a lot, and we need to keep them people coming, because we have a treasure there with Chautauqua Lake. That falls back into the bed tax funding. I strive very hard to make sure that that money comes back into the Chautauqua Lake area, because we're working hand in hand with the villages, towns around this beautiful lake to keep our lake clean and clean up our lake, because we can't afford to lose those tourism dollars.
And they are valuable from two ways, because they bring a lot of dough in, but they are heavily taxed along the lake especially, and they don't receive the services. You don't need to put their kids in school. They rarely need police for some senior citizens. Most of them are elderly, and many other services they don't really require, but they're paying the full taxes. Like I have a little place over there, and I pay hundreds of dollars in sewer taxes and things, and I never use it. We never use it.
I won't deny that.
So there's it's good income anyway for the localities along the lake, and it's very special, and we should do everything possible to push them.
Well, on the other side of that coin, I, as representing you people here in Chautauqua and Sherman, we're going to have a challenge next year, because, as you know, the city of Jamestown, city of Dunkirk, continually wants to cut the services, for example, of the sheriff department. and lop it back on the whole county system. That is something we have to be aware of, and the people in this viewing area have to be aware of.
How does that work?
Well, for example, the village of Fredonia now would like to not contribute money to the Regional Drug Task Force. They would like the county to do that. And I, for one, know how valuable our Drug Task Force is. But on the other hand, most of the Drug Task Force work is done in the Dunkirk, Fredonia, Jamestown area. Not to say we don't have a problem, but they go where they have the most demand. Plus, those people come back into our jail. So we have to be careful that they don't take money out of the town of Chautauqua and put into the city of Jamestown in a sense of bailing them out.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a concern that we all have to watch. And I know I talked with, for example, Laura Damon during the campaign. And you know, I work hand in hand with those kind of groups of people to keep them abreast of what is happening in county government that may affect the fact of they're pulling the real estate property taxes out of this area, or the sales tax is probably a better example. I do not want to see the sales tax formula changed, because that's very positive to the town of Chautauqua and the town of Sherman and Westfield, for example. You know, because they have, particularly Chautauqua has a significant amount of wealth, as you just related to, around the lake area. And I want to keep it that way. But the city may look at that as saying, what, the town of Chautauqua only pays $1.50 on their town taxes? You know, so they have to understand that. And so that can all change, and that bothers me, the way the sales tax may be distributed.
On the other side of the picture with this drug task force, a number of very powerful and influential people have, across the nation, have said these are a waste of our money. We still, like in Chautauqua, we still have higher usage of drugs coming in than ever before they started the task force, and there's no telling what the task force does, excepting we know it costs a lot of money.
Well, they investigate drug-related, everything that's drug-related, but where would we be without them? That's the other scary part.
As I say, there is no telling what effect they do have. Apparently, I remember I was on a drug raid one time down in Copiague, Long Island, and it was called The Corner, and there was a lot of dealing going on there. I went down there and playing just ordinary clothes and blended in, and watched the police come roaring in, and they came in and they arrested 13 people, and they had about 10 cars and 20 cops there, and they rounded them up, and I'm telling you, this is God's honest truth, before the cop cars were out of sight, there were replacements on the street for everybody they picked up.
For the drug people they just
In the meantime, they spent $1 million putting all these other people in jail.
But on the other hand, that's a very good question for the sheriff when he comes here or not. But I certainly would support the drug task force.
Yeah. You think it does good?
Yeah, I do. I think
it makes a difference?
Well,
how come the drugs are so much more in use today than they were 10 years ago? I mean, there's no question about it.
Well, that's why we still need the drug task force. But I don't know the answer. I don't do drugs, so I don't really know. All I know is what I hear from fellow deputies.
I basically tune into mayors of large cities, state police, people who are into the drug situation. They're saying this current, a lot of them are saying the current approach to drugs is totally wasted. Totally wasted money. The drugs are more prevalent, cheaper than ever before, with all these billions we're spending on the so-called drug forces.
I don't have an answer, but maybe one of the viewers will if they call in.
I wish they would. I wish somebody would come up with a real answer. Well, we've had a lot of answers. They say legalize them, put them on prescriptions, and then we can control them anyway. And we can dump half the people out of the jails, which costs us $20 million.
I'm not sure that would be a good idea, though, Reed.
I don't know. I've talked to certain people in law enforcement. They say that better than taking them off to jail is just put them into rehab and set up the drug courts, because it's costing us billions keeping these people in jail, and it doesn't do any good. The second they're gone, somebody replaces them immediately.
But I don't think all of them
are. Money.
I think like Judge Clare has a drug court. I don't think all those drug people are failures. I think some of them have come out and been.
Well, I think the drug courts, according to what I read, are much higher percentage of success than putting them in the jail.
Well,
in the jail, they just co-mingle with other druggies, and the minute they get out, they're back in business.
But they do have drug court, and it is working. What percentage? There's always failures and everything, but there are good that come out of those things.
I think that's probably one of the more positive approaches, rather than just sweeping them out and putting them all in jail. In the meantime, there's no more room. We've already filled the jails like that with drug users, and it's becoming crazy.
I know another thing that we'll be discussing in the next, probably
Uh-huh.
by January, is the size of the county legislature. So, maybe
Yeah,
callers.
we're cutting them back by 10 or something?
Well, that's proposal. I certainly will not support that because I hope I'm relating to the people I represent,
Yeah.
the amount of time that I work. But